I think most people know personal development is important, and we kind of touched on that at the start. But most people's excuse to it is that I don't have the time. And it's not about not having the time. You have to create the time for yourself. Welcome back, guys, to another session of Sleight of Mind. Today, we're going to be talking about tips and tricks on improving your productivity. I want us to have just a quick chat about why we think it's important to increase your productivity. I know personally from my own experience, I haven't always been the most productive person. The last job that I was in, I used to sort of work 12-hour shifts, mix of days and nights, and I was the first person that always used to say, there's just not enough free time in the day to do everything that I wanted to do. And looking from the position I'm in now to where I was, I firmly believe that wasn't true. And I think it comes down to a couple of things, and it's really time management and your prioritization in terms of getting everything that you need to get done with your day. I'm a firm believer that this kind of age-old saying is more true today than ever, which is if you're not growing, you're dying. And I think there are sort of a lot of different spin-offs on that. And I know we've had a lot of conversations, probably even off camera, me and you, Jamie, talking about this sort of concept where, technology and things are kind of going through that phase of exponential growth. And if you're not in a stage now where you're not looking to better yourself in every area of your life, you're going to fall behind. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the key phrase there is if you're not growing and you're dying, because there's only two stages of life, right? Of the life cycles. So a lot of people nowadays think that getting to 40 is the midlife and you're tipping over the edge. But that's slowly changing now, like 40 is not really that old anymore in terms of human beings, that is. But yeah, 100%, the way technology is growing now, it could definitely be leading to a different future for human beings as well. Yeah. So yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah, cool. So I think some of the tips that we're going to give you guys are, like I said, we're going to help to increase your productivity, make you better with your time management, and give you that time to get that personal development into your life. So I'll kick off with my first tip that I've got noted down, which is to do with, I'll say start with knowing your why. What most people start to do is they have a problem or a situation that they're currently in. They see where they would like to end up, and they try and plot what they need to be doing in order to get there. And whilst I think that's a good route to go down, I think it misses a key element as to why they want to do it. And knowing and being able to answer that question can kind of empower you and give you much more motivation to go after what you're getting at. And I throw out an extreme example here, right? So for example, somebody wants to give up alcohol going forward, right? And they know that they're in a stage now where maybe they have a few beers a week or a few drinks a day, or they might drink a lot, and they want to get to a stage where they drink nothing at all. They're completely clean. And how they're going to go about doing that is they're going to be reducing the amount of alcohol consumption every day or every week. And whilst it's a good plan and it could perfectly work, the key question is to ask yourself, if you're in that sort of position in this hypothetical scenario, is why do you want to give up alcohol?
And I think a key point here is obviously for Joe Bloggs, who doesn't know how to find their why, I know that a key aspect to doing that is asking yourself why 5 times. You ask the same question, but you say why 5 times, then you're more likely to get your answer. I mean, the first couple layers are just going to be what your head thinks.
Yeah.
And then the next couple layers may be what your heart thinks. But when you get to the 5th why, it may be the same as the 3rd and 4th why, but when you definitely get to that 5th why, that's going to be your real reason why. So in first instance, like, the example Sanj gave, why do you want to give up drinking? Maybe just because I want to be fitter. That's your first why. You ask yourself why again. Why do you want to be fitter? Right? Oh, so I can my kids more. Why do you want to play with your kids? So they grow up better and have a better life with me. Why do you want them to have a better life? Because they're my children and they're my offspring, and I want them to grow to be the best they can be. That's your 5 levels of why. So whenever you ask yourself why, you're trying to find out your real why, make sure you ask yourself 5 times, not just straight off the bat, your first why that you get to. So I definitely agree with the why concept, and that's how you would get to your main why.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. I think the rule of 5 there is a really good tip to throw out for everyone. One quick resource I want to throw out for everyone is, I know we both read this, is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And inside the book, he has a principle which he calls the golden circle. The smallest circle on the inside is your why, and then you have a larger outer circle, which is your how, and then the largest circle on the outside of that is your what. And the book it gives a lot of business related examples, and it talks about how most businesses start with their what, which is their product or their service, and that's what they try and sell you. Whereas some of the more successful companies will start from the inside of this circle and work their way out. And whilst a lot of these principles that he shares in this book are business related, again, you can take this same concept and apply it to everyday life. So if we go back to our hypothetical scenario, it's like you want to give up alcohol, fine, but why do you want to give it up? Answer that question first and use Jamie's tip of asking yourself that 5 times. Once you know your true real why, plot your how, which is your second layer, right? How are you going to go about doing that? And then what are going to be your action steps in order to making it happen? And so it's a great book for anyone that hasn't read it or haven't heard of it. I think we both would highly recommend it to most people. Cool. Okay, so second tip we'd like to throw out there, I think Jamie had this one noted down, was willpower.
Yes. Willpower is a very, very key thing, and a lot of people don't take notice of it. So I did read in the book, or I heard in the ebook, that a willpower is more like like the charge on your phone. So when it's full green, 100%, your phone actually works swimmingly well. Everything moves fast. Everything plays great. Everything goes well when you're using your phone. If you actually notice, when it gets into the red or the orange and it has that lower battery level, you may see that it starts to perform slower. The pages don't load as fast. The memory isn't getting used as quick as it can do. Videos don't seem to be streaming as well as they can do. That's just because of the power and the juice left within that phone. You can compare that very relatively to your willpower. So everyone wakes up with a certain amount of willpower in the day. And no matter how many people feel like they are night owls or morning people, that the willpower is used at certain periods of time. And you got to see when that is. Now, for me personally, my willpower is all in the morning. If I don't get stuff done in the morning, I'm most likely going to get it done as efficiently and the best I can. So my main tip here would be to recognize when your willpower is at its highest, when it's strong, and then make sure you use that sort of 70 to 100% of that battery willpower life and do the tasks that you need to do then, because you know from then on going forward, that willpower is slowly going to decrease, and the efforts that it takes to perform that action or achieve that goal later on in the day is going to be a lot more daunting and therefore lead to a habit of not wanting to do it. So my basis on willpower would be try and use your willpower when it's at its highest point. So what about you, Sanj?
Yeah, I agree 100%. This is kind of gonna tie in with our next point as well. But willpower, I think, is very closely linked with self-discipline, and all of the tips that we're going to recommend today are pretty much, I would say, next to impossible if you don't have the discipline to be able to apply them. It's obviously easier said than done, but I think linking back your kind of willpower and self-discipline once you know your why become a little bit easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Blind.
Yeah. So the third tip that we want to throw out for you guys, I think Jamie's probably a lot better at this than me. I'm kind of getting myself back into a routine of this, but it's waking up earlier. And for a lot of people, this is a big struggle. I think there's a very popular, I don't know, I guess you could say, culture of snoozers. I think a key probably book for both of us, which we've both been through, is The Miracle Morning by Elrod. And for me, and again, I presume the same for you, it really gave me a strong foundation as to why you should create that time in the morning for yourself. And his whole book is basically based on creating personal development time. And everyone kind of talks about this idea of, I think most people know personal development is important, and we kind of touched on that at the start. But most people's excuse to it is that I don't have the time. And it's not about not having the time. You have to create the time for yourself. You have to know where you're potentially wasting hours or where you could gain more hours in your day. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's a case of sacrificing sleep, but maybe shifting your sleeping pattern so that you're getting up before the rest of the world, right? And that, especially for me, I found very empowering. Getting up at 4 or 5 a.m. by no means, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's nasty, especially at the start. But if you can get up at 4 or 5 a.m. and you can get 2, 3, 4 hours work done, depending on what time your day normally starts, you would have done so much with that amount of time before people's day have even started. And I take a principle from The Miracle Morning, which he talks about, and how there's a very good quote in there which really stuck with me as I read it. And it basically reads, how you do anything is how you do everything. And how you start your day in the morning really affects how the rest of your day pans out. For example, if you're somebody that snoozes your alarm first thing in the morning, you're putting something off that you don't really want to do. You don't want to get out of bed. And that mentality, whether you know it's consciously or subconsciously, will stick with you. So when you need to do those difficult things, you will put them off, right? But on the flip side, if you're that person that gets up at that first hour, if you applied what Jamie said in the last point, which is willpower and doing the things that you may not necessarily want to do first, but the most important things first, if you do those in those first few hours, you'll find that your days are so radically different.
Yeah, man. I think you hit the nail on the head with all those points there. I mean, every human, there's no excuse. Every human has the same amount of hours in the day as every other human. So, like, it's just excuses that are being made, right? And at the end of the day, I live by the principle. Oh, there's two principles, okay? Do what you need to do first, and do what you want to do later. That's one, right? And if you wake up earlier, you have the ability to then go ahead and perform those actions that you need to do first. You can do what you want to do later. That's a key one for me. And the other one is do it and say it's done, right? A lot of people say, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. No, for me, it's do it and say it's done. You know, that's a very key principle as well. And if you can achieve those things in the morning just by waking up that much earlier, then you have won for the day. Like Sam said, when the rest of the world is asleep is when you should be working. A lot of people take that into the terms of I should stay up late while everyone else is going to bed. No, you should just wake up earlier while everyone's still in bed, right? I know a lot of people that wake up at 5, 6 a.m. just to go to their job. Okay, so why don't you wake up that much earlier to do some personal development? You know what I mean? That's the thing that I think of. And it doesn't matter about going to bed earlier. So I go to bed at about 9:30 at night, each and every night. About 9 o'clock, I get tired and I'll probably be asleep. And I wake up around 4 in the morning every day. That's a long period of time for me. That's about 7 hours of sleep. I only really need probably 6 hours. Yeah, it was pretty hard at the start, but making it a habit, I'll give you guys a little bit of a tip on it. Whenever I used to get up, or my body started to do it for me, is I would need to go to the toilet at 4 a.m. Now, I still need to go to the toilet at 4 a.m. So regardless of whether I want to get up or not, my body's like, hey, get up because I need to go to the toilet. That automatically means I have to go to the toilet, and then I just continue my day from there. So that's probably one reason why it's easier for me now, because I started off the habit and my body got used to that. And now it's like, okay, your mind may change, but your body clock is not. Your body clock's still going to say, hey, I need to go to the toilet at this time. So it's a bit of a weird way of thinking about it, but that was the easy win for me when it comes to continuing the strategy or the habit.
Yeah. There's one thing that you touched on that reminded me of a section from The Miracle Morning, and it's where he talks about actually experimenting with how much sleep you really need. And I think there's a very sort of common advice throwing around that everyone kind of needs like 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep in order to function correctly. And I think we're all quite big believers in it's not the quantity of sleep that you get, it's the quality. And how people fall into that kind of deep sleep where they start getting that quality sleep is different for everyone. So some people may actually need 9 hours, whereas some people can function completely fine on 5 hours. So I wouldn't take any general advice with how much sleep you need, but if you don't know how much you need to fully function at 100%, I would definitely start experimenting with it.
Yeah.
And one tip which he gave in the book, which he said worked for him, and it's about your mindset as to how much sleep you need. And he mentions that if you believe that you need 8 or 9 hours of sleep and you go to bed thinking, damn, I'm only going to get 5 or 6 hours, regardless, you're going to wake up tired, right? But on the flip side, if you tell yourself you only need 4 to 5 hours, you'll be able to get 4 to 5 hours and be able to function better, right? And again, I don't know if there's science behind it. It's
true. It's definitely true, because I've always said I only need like 4 or 5 hours, and I get 6 and I'm like, cool, I'm ready to go. And I did a lot of experimenting on myself, on my sleep, obviously. So same as Sandra, I used to work 12-hour shifts. There'd be sometimes I'd come off a 12-hour shift, I sleep for 4 hours, I'll wake up and I'm completely fine. I can carry on the rest of the day. I'm like, if I could do it then I can do it now. There's no real difference, right? I only need those 4 hours. Obviously, we're not trying to say go in and like detriment your health by doing this, but just experiment with it to see how you feel after a few things, especially with that mindset of going in expecting an 8-hour sleep, which is supposed to be the standard. I mean, I never sleep 8 hours. Even on a weekend, I get up early, so it's the same.
One final point on this before we move forward, and again, another final tip on waking up earlier. I think it's one that I first heard from Tony Robbins, and he talks about the idea of emotion is driven by motion. Students of psychology should know that your mind controls your body, right? But it also works the opposite way, right? So that your body also controls your mind. You can alter the state of your mental thought by changing the state of your body, whether that's through body language, movement, various different things. So understand that the connection works both ways. And if you're looking to change your state, start with the motion of your body.
Yeah.
That can radically change things for you.
Definitely. Put the alarm on the other side of the room, not the other side of the bed, so you can roll over and touch it.
Yeah.
Somewhere where you physically have to get up and walk there, and I guarantee you, it will change.
They even have alarm clocks now which are on wheels, and the moment they go off, they shoot off your bed, and you have to kind of go around your room chasing them. I've seen one that has like a helicopter propeller on it, which it flies up to your ceiling, so you actually have to stand up and take it down from your ceiling.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, they got their mat ones as well, but I know people are just gonna turn off, put their feet on the mat, and then go back to sleep. So it doesn't really make sense, man. But so.
Fourth point, I think, was another one that Jamie had. You were touching on, was it motivational quotes and inspirational videos?
Yes, inspirational videos. So a lot of the times you get them days where you don't want to do anything. Your willpower's low at that point, or you just feel lazy. Maybe you're sick. But watching inspiring videos as the outcomes that you want to have, where other people have experienced it and they're talking about it, these sorts of videos and things like that can actually inspire you to get up and do it yourself, or maybe get up and do it the next day. So yes, it sounds like it's a very small concept, but it's something that may hit people hard. It may not affect anybody. Some people, it may not affect them, but for a lot of people, it does. So just watching motivational videos, inspiring videos, get into that place that you want to be at. Seeing someone else doing it is a way of getting you to be able to do it as well. So as human beings, we are mirror species. So if we see someone else do it, we're going to copy. If you're watching these videos, it's in our DNA. You want to keep watching them, and you want to start to copy them naturally yourself. So that's just something from my own personal belief that can help you to increase your productivity in the tasks that you have at hand.
One tip, I can't remember which book I got this from, but they talk about writing these quotes even on like post-it notes and sticking them in places around your house. One place that I like to put them, and I like to leave them in places where I know I'm going to check quite frequently. So I don't actually use post-it notes, but whatever quote is really hitting me at that point, I put as a background on my phone wallpaper. So I mentioned earlier in this chat that I'm currently training myself to start getting those early mornings back. The quote that I currently have on my iPhone background, so the moment I turn off my alarm, reads, "Every morning you have two choices: continue to sleep with your dreams or wake up and chase them." And I read that every morning, and I'm like, shit, I need to get out of bed. Yeah, it's a simple one, but can be very, very powerful. And it's a personal thing, something for you guys to test and try out and see how you get on with.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's another one, Sanj, that I failed to mention. Maybe I know you're very experienced with this one, is staying away from your phone, email, and social media. Yeah. So that's a massive distraction that brings the productivity levels way down. Yep. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've actually done quite a bit of experimenting with this recently. I think the four of us, as part of this mastermind, we all have iPhones, and for everybody else that has an iPhone, you can all take advantage of this as long as you're on kind of one of the latest OSs. But they've brought out something called Screen Time, and it's in your settings. It should be installed by default, and it tracks exactly how you use your phone. It'll tell you exactly how many times you've received a notification from an app, exactly how many minutes you spent on a particular app, what notifications you get that make you pick your phone up straight after, how long you spend on certain things. It really drills down to some really granular detail. And I think anybody that's looking to, thinking back to some of our previous points where we said it's not about finding time, it's about creating it. This is a great way to figure out where you're spending your time. And I think before this, a lot of people, a lot of the advice that I had read was simply keeping a journal of what you do with every minute or every hour of your day. to figure out where you're wasting time. And I think if you're somebody that uses your phone quite a lot, whether it be for work, whether it be for personal use, screen time, I'm sure Android have something very similar, but screen time is such a great way to figure out where you're putting your time. You can set restrictions on certain applications that you may not want to use. And when you hit that restriction limit, know that you've spent 10, 20, 30 minutes, an hour using this application. And now, if you stop where you are, you have time created to do something maybe more productive with your time. So yeah, it was a really great one for me. So I personally now I actually have pretty much all my notifications off except phone calls. And I find that now I'm only actually checking my phone when I want to check it. And yeah, I do miss things sometimes, but more often than not, I find it's just kind of business as usual. You know, nothing really changes in the situation. You don't really miss anything. And actually, the time that you've saved from having to sit down and do it at that point, you've now created that time where you can do something way more productive. So that's my personal experience with it.
Yeah, definitely, man. I agree. I think sound is a bit hardcore with the do not disturb setting, but yeah, it's good. Definitely, especially ties into waking up early in the morning.
Yeah.
Please don't touch your phone unless the alarm's on your phone. Obviously, you want to turn that off, but don't look at your email, don't look at your Facebook, don't look at your social media, all this stuff. Get the stuff done that you need to get done first, and do what you want to do later. That I can't say that enough. So yeah, that's definitely a key one I wanted to add in being more productive, especially in this day and age. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Last, I think, final point that we had was to do with creating to-do lists. And I think this was actually one that I may have picked up from you initially. And it was maybe one that I did maybe mentally before I actually started writing things down. But for me personally, creating a to-do list was a massive life changer for me. And I actually took the idea of a to-do list and I expanded on it with a principle that I got from a book. So the book that I read was called No Excuses, The Power of Self-Discipline by Brian Tracy. I'll leave a link to it below. I think, Jamie, you may have also already gone through it as well. But as part of that section, it talks about self-discipline and, again, the not having any excuses in many different areas of your life. Highly recommend it. It's very closely tied with everything we've been talking about today. In terms of lists in particular, it gives you a way to categorize your to-do lists into things that have very high importance and have critical consequences, to things that maybe have a lower importance and no consequences, and even lists that you can delegate tasks to other people to do. So if you have, friends, if you work as part of a team, if you're as part of a family, again, there are not everything you need to do yourself. So even taking the simple idea of creating a to-do list where you can check things off one by one, categorizing them and prioritizing them is a really important concept, which I think you need to grasp in order to be able to do the most important things first. You don't want to waste your critical hours that you've created doing the least important things and leaving the critical things to last. So you need to create these to-do lists smartly and create them with some sort of order and prioritization as to what you're trying to achieve with your day. I think another one that we both read, and I'll let Jamie cover this one a little bit, is The One Thing.
Yes, The One Thing by Gary Keller. Very good book. Like Saj may have learned to do this from me, but I also learned to enhance my to-do list from what he just mentioned. So the first thing I did was read The One Thing. It points you to directly focusing on that one thing per day. So it's kind of like the why thing, but it's also how to. So that next ring that Sandra was talking about, the how is obviously your list. Your list is going to be your to-do list on how to achieve that. There's only, even though you may have a list of 10 things or 5 things or even 3 things, really and truly, there's only going to be one thing on that list which has to be at the very top, which is going to be the most critical for that day. And as long as you get that one done, you can then move on to the next day to the next thing, which may be number 2 or 3 on the list. Or you may have another one that comes in at number 1, but at least that one has got done. So I take a little bit of both. I prioritize my list now. Main focus is on the one thing. As long as that number 1 gets hit out, I'm in a good place. Most of the times now, I only have 3. So I have 3 things on my list. That's it. Number 1, which is the one thing. Then I have number 2 and 3, just in case you hit that number 1 and you have the capability or the fire, the willpower to go ahead and hit number 2 and number 3. You can go ahead and bang those out. So a lot of the times in my extra time in the morning now, I've hit all 3 things and I'm like, I don't know what to do now. I don't have anything left to do. And that's when I'll just continue creating another list. Maybe I'll do that list today. Maybe I'll crack on with that list tomorrow. But those three things have got accomplished, or at least that one thing has definitely got accomplished. So yeah, a little bit of both on that one.
Yeah, cool. There's just to expand on that again a little bit more. There's something that's touched upon quite a lot in the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferris. There's a big principle they talk about in this book called the 80-20 principle. I think it's also known as Pareto's law.
Yep.
So for anybody that hasn't heard of it, the basic idea is that 80% of the results will be seen from 20% of the things that you kind of put in, and this can be applied to many areas of your life. For example, reading a book, the golden nuggets, the 80% of what you take from the book will only be found in 20% of the actual book itself, right? And I think this is true of, you know, most. If you break down a task, actually 80% of what you're going to achieve from it is only going to come from a small portion of that task, and that becomes your one thing. And that's the one thing that you kind of need to get done, right? There's also another story that stuck with me quite a lot when I heard it, and I heard it in an interview with Will Smith. He talked about the idea, and I don't know if it's true or not, but he tells this story about how his dad, when he was younger, set him a task of building a massive brick wall, right? And he, you know, I think when he said he first looked at it, he thought, how am I ever going to build this sort of ginormous wall? And the principle that he used to get over it wasn't that you're going to come every day in with this mindset of, I'm going to build the greatest, biggest wall you've ever seen. It's that I'm going to take one brick and I'm going to lay this brick the best that it's ever been laid. And you just do that every single day. And those small steps eventually, you know, will pile up to a complete grand, massive wall like you intended, right? And I think you can break that down in longer term visions and goals that you have. Not everything needs to be done on that day, right? So if your longer term vision is, I need to lose 10 stone, what is the one thing that you can pick out to do today that is going to help you reach that longer goal, and break down the bigger goal into smaller steps? And always, you know, for me, I always think of it back to that Will Smith story. What is the one brick that I'm going to lay today, which is going to pave the way to building that great big wall?
Yeah, very nice way of putting it.
Okay, guys, I think that's our video wrapped up now. I think we hit 5 or 6 really key points there, which I'm hoping you guys will be able to learn something from and apply to your day-to-day lives. Experiment with a few of these. I think one of the key things that we want to communicate to you guys is there's no right or wrong way. There are things that Jamie will do that I won't, and vice versa. And it's more about experimenting with yourself as a person to figure out what drives you, what makes you the most productive. And that is where you'll find your true freedom. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit the like button. Leave any comments if you have tried anything, or if there's anything else you want to share that will help increase your productivity. And we'll see you next time.